My name is Clara Jensen, and I am 34 years old. I live in Riverside Glade, a cozy little town where everyone knows each other's names and where community events are held almost every other weekend. I spend my days working as a school librarian, surrounded by the musty scent of books, the rustling of pages, and the laughter of children who come in to explore new worlds. My life is simple, yet fulfilling. At home, I have my wonderful husband, Jason, who is my rock and my biggest supporter. He encourages me to pursue my hobbies, and we often bond over our shared love for video games, especially the retro ones we grew up with. Everything was going smoothly until one fateful morning when I decided to sell some of my old Nintendo 64 games on Facebook Marketplace. I wanted to declutter our home and gain a little extra money in the process. I listed a few classic titles, and to my surprise, I received a message almost immediately. It was from a man named Keith. Now, at first, I assumed Keith was just a regular buyer. However, as I read his messages, I quickly realized that he might be the complete opposite. Keith began by touting my prices as too high, yet he did not offer a single counter offer. I was puzzled and slightly annoyed. I thought maybe he was just looking for a way to engage in conversation, so I encouraged him to make an offer, but he kept dodging the request. It became a back-and-forth exchange, and like a moth drawn to a flame, I began to egg him on. My messages turned a bit snarky, and instead of diffusing the situation, it escalated into an outright verbal brawl. Then came the moment that shook my world, turning an already annoying transaction into a personal attack. In a moment of utter rudeness, Keith called my beloved husband, Jason, a fat pig. Now, Jason is not fat, he is tall and fit, a result of his weekly soccer games with friends. But it was more than that. It was the sheer audacity of someone insulting my partner without knowing anything about him or our lives that ignited a fire within me. I would not let this stand. It was personal now, and Keith had crossed a line that I was not willing to let go of, especially after all the disrespect he had already shown. So, I took a moment, collected my thoughts, and decided to turn the tables. I remembered that during our exchange, Keith had boasted about his wealth, claiming he had $50,000 in cash stored away in a safe at his house. Intrigued, I decided to do a little digging. I typed in his address, and sure enough, it popped up. I was tempted, perhaps a bit recklessly, and sent him a message simply containing the address, to which he replied with a laugh emoji. He claimed it was his parents' house, but curiosity got the better of me. I searched again and found another location along with pictures on his Facebook page. This time, I sent him that address. The reaction I received was priceless. Suddenly, Keith transformed from an arrogant keyboard warrior to a flustered, panicked man. He started sending frantic messages accusing me of stalking him, demanding to know how I obtained that information and threatening to call the cops. My heart raced not from fear, but from excitement. I was winning. Then came the moment that sent everything into a whirlwind. I received a phone call from someone claiming to be a police officer from the county. On the other line, a calm but authoritative voice informed me that my actions could be considered stalking, and that it would be wise to stop my current behavior immediately. I had never heard that tone directed at me before, and I was momentarily taken aback. After a moment of calculation, I laughed inwardly, realizing how ridiculous the whole situation was. I replied calmly, explaining that I had done nothing wrong. All I had done was perform a simple Google search. I suggested that she tell Keith to learn how to behave in online marketplaces if he did not want to receive backlash. I hung up feeling triumphant. It was exhilarating. I left Keith to stew, and though I did not hear anything back, I knew the psychological impact I had made on him. Each month, I would casually call his roofing company and book consultations under different names for random properties he would have to attend to. I could only imagine how frustrated he was each time, thinking of how he had gotten himself into this mess all because he insulted someone he barely knew. As weeks turned into months, I continued with my small campaign of revenge, feeling empowered while knowing that I was never truly crossing any lines. The thrill of outsmarting Keith and maintaining control over the situation was intoxicating. It was the best kind of payback, the kind that did not involve physical confrontation, but rather a battle of wits. However, life has a funny way of throwing curveballs. One day, as I was walking through the mall, I saw him. Keith was there, standing next to a jewelry store with a woman I assumed was his girlfriend, laughing loudly, blissfully unaware of the story behind our interaction. My heart raced as I mentally prepared for the possibility of confrontation. But then, surprisingly, I felt a sense of clarity wash over me. What was the point of carrying this feud any longer? I realized that I held the power in this situation, and I had gotten my revenge. I felt accomplished and free. Within moments, I came up with an idea. Instead of continuing my silent torment, I decided I would go up to Keith and confront him. Perhaps not for the reasons you might think. So, I approached him boldly and greeted him. I introduced myself as the person he had been messaging, and as anticipated, his face turned pale. I was ready for him to be defensive, but instead, what happened next was astonishing. Keith stumbled backward, nearly dropping his phone in shock and embarrassment. His girlfriend looked between us, clearly confused by his reaction. In that moment, instead of casting more words of insult, I surprised even myself with what I said next. I told him that I hoped he would be nicer to people in the future, not that he had to like everyone, but kindness goes a long way. His expression softened slightly as he mumbled some apologies, realizing how ridiculous the whole exchange had become. I walked away feeling lighter and surprisingly satisfied. As time passed, I found peace within myself, and I did not need to play games anymore. I had my small victory, but I learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes, revenge is not about outsmarting someone, but about finding understanding and growing beyond their negativity. I returned to my life as a librarian, feeling like a queen on her throne, knowing that Keith was just a chapter in my story, and I had turned the page.